Today, we've got my homie Cailean Bailey. Needs no introduction, so I'm just not going to do it.
I feel like that's such a cool position because you get to be involved in so much foundational building of an infrastructure that can make or break an early stage company. A good foundation of recruiting sets the standard for so much of a company.
Man, I meet people and they're like heads of recruiting and they haven't touched a rec in 10 years. And just like, why?
Yeah.
This is just a business process first and a job title second.
Obviously, if you're a recruiter, you have an agenda. If you're asking someone on a date, there's a little bit of an agenda. If you're trying to sell something, there's a little bit of an agenda, of course. But you can establish a genuine connection through curiosity, caring, that's going to establish that immediate back and forth, like trust and communication.
Recruiters, do you know those moments where you're juggling 15 roles, 10 hiring managers, and 3 different outreach tools, and you just think, there's gotta be a better way to do this? That's where Grayscale comes in. It's an AI assistant built for recruiters, not just another generic chatbot. Grayscale lives inside your ATS, whether it's Greenhouse, Workday, or SAP, and it automates candidate updates, reminders, and outreach across text, WhatsApp, and chat. I've seen teams use it, cut time to fill by 30%, and cut ghosting in half without losing the human touch. Because this isn't about replacing recruiters, it's about freeing them up to do the stuff that actually matters, closing great candidates. So if you're building a real talent machine, check out grayscaleapp.com and tell them Building the Talent Machine sent you.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today, we've got my homie Cailean Bailey. Needs no introduction, so I'm just not going to do one. What's up, bro?
Not sure about that, but I'm doing great, man.
Sweet, dude. Where are you based? What are you working on?
Yeah, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. Perfect time of year to be here right now. Weather's beautiful. Yeah, working on the startup game. I love being in the founding type of role, early stage, 50 people or less kind of gig. That's what I've been doing for the last really 8 years since I've been here. Agency before that, but I found my niche of that early stage founding type role.
Hell yeah. I'm glad you got the notification for the uniform for the show today. So yeah, I think that's one of the first things I noticed when I met you at TA Week in San Diego last year. It was like, oh, this is like a smart millennial homie. Let's see what up. And to be honest, dude, I feel like the bromance hit it off strong. Like, it's not always easy to make friends in your 30s, so I just appreciate you. But yeah, dude, like you're a baller startup recruiter, so we can talk about that.
No, I appreciate it. And I feel like I knew you long before I actually met you because the whole community building aspect of what we do is so critical. And I've leaned on you for personal things, for professional things. Like that is hard to find. So I'm equally as grateful and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, dude, love will tear us apart. I got my Joy Division shirt on today, so we're going to talk about some of those things in like the recruiting world. What's got your attention this week in the world of recruiting?
Yeah, so I've been really wanting to talk about I've identified myself as like a founding recruiter and I'm starting to see these roles pop up. I still get the notifications and I'm always tracking what jobs are open, but I've always felt like I've seen like founding product marketer, founding engineer, founding AI ML, and I'm starting to see more founding recruiter roles, which is really exciting. I feel like that's such a cool position because you get to be involved in so much foundational building of an infrastructure that can make or break an early stage company. It can make or break any company, but like a good foundation of recruiting with good processes, good standards, good intake, good interview loops, like that sets the standard for so much of a company. And as I haven't been in it too, if you're a 30-person company, one person can be like a rocket ship for you. One person can also sink it too. And I actually love that kind of pressure. So I've been learning a lot. I've been reading actually a lot of job descriptions about like founding product marketing roles and founding engineering roles. And it's like looking at like the critical things of those roles, they track across any discipline really. It's so exciting. Shout out to the companies that are posting that as a job title now, because that is critical and it's exciting. And the people that want those types of roles hopefully have been there and done that. And they've taken their licks and they've had successes and they come in and rock it, because I always say this is unbiased, but this is the most critical role in the company. And it really excites me. So I've been reading a lot about that this week, especially.
Yeah. I vibe with that. I think it takes somebody special to go in and do strategic and tactical work. The traditional recruiting org chart of like junior recruiter / sourcer, RC, to full cycle recruiter, to recruiting manager, director, VP, et cetera, et cetera. Like, man, I meet people and they're like heads of recruiting or whatever, VP recruiting, director recruiting. They haven't touched a rec in 10 years and just like, why?
Yeah.
This is just a business process first and a job title second. I understand why you manage people, but I don't know, man. I love working recs. I love sleuthing the internet. I love cold calling people. It's like, you're telling me there's recruiters that don't do that? What? How do we have the same job title?
Yeah. Yeah. Every company I've ever talked to, consulted with, interviewed at, worked at, I've always said, you can give me the highest title. You can make something up. I will always carry a rec. I have to. I was born competitive. I'm still competitive. Even in my recreational Thursday night bowling league last night, I'm still competitive at pushing 40. I just love the hunt. And I agree with you. What's exciting about the early stage roles that I've been in have been you can hammer out the execution side, which can be really fun, like a fun hunt. But you can also be sat with a board or your C-suite and you can like really map out like what does the actual next 6, 12, 18 months look like from a hiring standpoint? And then what will that do for the company? And then how can I, as a TA person, people ops person, whatever title you want to put on it, like that really be like a massive accelerant to that and augment to that. So yeah, that's my vibe. I don't think I could walk into a Fortune 100 company and be as effective.
No.
I know that now in my life, and I'm grateful for some good and some bad experiences that helped me learn that.
Do you think the candidates you recruit pick up on that too? Like, how does it impact the actual recs you work?
Yeah, I feel like even on the phone or even on virtual conversations in recruiting, there's osmosis. Like we're learning a ton about each other. I'm gonna play into a stereotype here. I was a communications major athlete. The joke was that the athletes all majored in communications. Studying human communication as an undergrad, you learn a lot about body language, you learn a lot about inflection, you learn a lot about the sender and the receiver, and you learn a lot about what's now called EQ. But I think that when you're really excited, it's like genuinely excited, it is quite hard to fake that. And I think that when you're on a conversation with somebody, even on the phone, they can sense your excitement because I'm building something too. And it's likely that the role that we're hiring for at ABC Startup is foundationally building something that will outlast all of us, maybe. So that is something that I've always really felt like is a skill of mine. Like my excitement is genuine. I likely won't work a rec that doesn't like represent a company that doesn't excite me really. And I think that can really shine through when you are genuinely excited about it. And it gets people genuinely excited about what they could potentially build at the company, whilst having hopefully a good culture, a good growth path, a good environment, all the things.
I too am a former athlete. I barely have a degree in English as a first language. So yeah, man, I'm right there with you. But I was going to write for a newspaper, and I was writing for a newspaper during the Great Recession. And this is the time of digital transformation. Blogs were coming out. I ran like an OG WordPress blog for an art and culture, a section of the largest newspaper outside of New York City. And I want to be a writer. The economy didn't afford that opportunity to an intern when they laid off 30% of the newsroom in my 6-month internship. But the whole point of that journalistic training was seeking truth through data. And what you mentioned, the EQ of communicating. And I think there's elements of that exist in recruiting. And I don't know, man, I just love it. I love this idea of going out and like finding a story. And the stories that we're finding are people.
And the story of a resume is like the entry point, the doorway. And when you get past that and you're on a conversation with somebody that you can tell early on in that conversation is this is an exciting talent, whether they're right for the group long term, that's for the interview loop to determine. But there's definitely a feel to that. I feel like it's like on my worst days of recruiting, on the Mondays when you're like, I can't really swing my feet out of bed today, I'm tired, I'm whatever. A good conversation with somebody that excites you, like that will snap you back into it. Oh, and then like you're good for the rest of the day. It's like a shot of adrenaline for me. And I haven't lost it yet, but yeah, you actually mentioned something that I'm going to flip the script here. How many recruiters do you and I know that sort of fell into it? Like I would say fell upwards into recruiting. Like I was a soccer coach, sports management, master's degree. I thought I was going to be a pro soccer player. You were English, want to be a writer. I don't know anybody that said they wanted to go into recruiting right away.
So that's the cool part about building a recruiting media company in public and launching multiple podcasts and doing this stuff is I got to meet my friends, my heroes, you name it, friends of friends. Like the recruiting world is very small, especially when you think the vendor ecosystem and who's building what and with whom and what did they do 5 years ago. Like it gets a very small like map. I know 2 people that are like intentional. And one of them is his mom ran a recruiting agency.
Okay.
Actually, 2, both. Both. Yeah, both their mom ran recruiting agencies. But for me, I like fell into recruiting, but my dad was a community banker and my mom was a nurse educator. So like my mom's entire second half of her career was like career coaching for the professional development of nurses in a hospital. And
Mm.
then my dad's like career was building relationships in the community. So it's obviously I'm a recruiter. It's in my blood. I just didn't realize it.
Yeah. A lot of people are so behaviorally wired to be good in recruiting. It's just not something that people, I feel like, yet maybe think to go into unless they know somebody first degree connection in life that has done it. Like when I interviewed for an agency out here, I thought I was interviewing for a job that the agency was posted, and I like ended up there. She's, I want to hire you. You have recruiting soccer players at Division I colleges. You're just changing the playing field. I'll never forget that. And then like it just clicked. And then that was
Is there anything you've done
years
from
ago.
your soccer recruiting, like being a coach, or that you've done or seen that translates to how you work with candidates today?
Yeah, for sure. You're always trying to out recruit your last class. Now, I've never worked in an environment where it's classes. Like you hear about these like big sales orgs that you're hiring in classes. Like here's the start date, fill it with 20 people. I've never done that before. But when you think about the evolution of specifically early stage startup, most of my career has been in seed A, B type companies. And you think about what it takes to hire your first sales rep. And then you think about what it takes to hire the one that is who's the 10 to 25 million dollar person. And then I've also been in environments where who's the 50, $100 million person. And your profile of who's going to be that person changes. And so when you're trying to turn around a soccer program, like you're trying to up level the team, like you're looking for more people that can score more goals in a very basic way. Or for those of you that know soccer, a left-footed left back is like the AI ML engineer that every single person wants.
Yeah.
The naturally left-footed left back is the person that everybody wants. So I always say that's your AI ML engineer that is getting picked up by everybody. So yeah, the whole idea of like out recruiting your class has tracked with my career, but also never ever budging from the character assessment, the character and drive and like behavioral competencies in my current world is how I would define it. I wasn't calling them that when I was coaching soccer. It's just, they were just like, is this person going to work hard? Like, how are they going to show us that they're going to work hard? It's Division I. Everybody works hard. Everybody's good. Everybody's smart. How do you like represent that as an athlete? And how do we represent that as an organization that's important to us? I'll tell you, in my career, the most skilled players I ever coached did not make it to the pros because they didn't have it between their ears. Amazingly talented individuals. The best player I can think of right now could be on the national team. He's that good. The player that, I'm sure if you go look at my LinkedIn and do some deep research, which I don't think anybody will, there's one player I had his freshman year, just made his debut for the U.S. national team. MLS Defender of the Year. He had a really solid baseline of talent, but he had it between his ears. He wanted to win.
Yeah.
He was so committed to being the best possible soccer player. And like you're seeing the dividend now. And he's never ever taken his foot off the gas. And so like you look at that and you think, Cailean's just talking random soccer talk. But when you're building out a software development team, a product team, a marketing team, any sort of go-to-market team, any team, you have to have the right people in the right seat. And sometimes you have to complement others with the behavioral side, baseline, foundational, functional skills. But the behavioral side will put those people, they will track really well for a growing company.
It's so true. There's a lot of sports analogies, and that takes a lot of heat. I think mostly because it's thought about in the wrong way. I think people dislike sports analogies in business because it's usually the CEO who wants to relive the glory days. But if you think about it the way you just approached it, from actually understanding the needs of the company, the signals you're looking for. If you've been an elite athlete, like you just know. But I think a lot of people like sports. Like I'm a former NCAA Division I athlete myself. There's just something different from executing at that level. We also talk about A players in work completely out of context. Like an entire sports team is not made up of A players. That's not how it works. But for some reason, like the business world just loves this idea of thinking that everybody's going to be this 90th percentile performer. And it's just wrong. And I love hearing you describe the mental side because we don't talk enough about the mental side of work. My experience is the same. Like I went to an elite public high school for the sport that I played. And a couple of the top players did well, but there's always like a few folks that surprisingly did really well at an elite level. Number one draft pick type things, like the kids that committed early. the All-American types, like, yeah, they were awesome at 17, but they were not executing at 19 and 20. And I think it's an interesting signal because like sports is fun. I don't know, like I'm a bro, you're a
Yeah.
bro, but like how do we take some of these signals and bring them into the hiring process? And one way I think about it is elite performance in multifacets of your life. Apple famously did this in Johnny Ive's design team. This is the exception, not the rule. However, everybody that worked in the industrial design team under Johnny Ive that made all these products that we love and use every day, they were also super talented and elite in another area of their life, whether they were like a cello player or a painter, and it was something they indexed on. And now that whole team is the team at Humane. So you can actually look at these people and look up what they've done. And it's fascinating because I don't think we look at the whole picture of the human being, including the motivations of work. What motivates somebody? Hiring is an art and science, recruiting indexes on the science, but I don't think candidates have this opportunity yet to showcase who they really are as people and those hobbies, those interests, those majors and minors in our life all come to what we do on a daily basis. I don't know. That's a lot of pontification, but what are your thoughts there on how we can view candidates more holistically?
So I am actively trying to not make sports references all the time because you can take any team. You can take an orchestra, you can take a ballet, you can take people that are into like they're actors, actresses in plays. You have to have the right person in the right seat or your equilibrium is going to be all off. Orchestra is a great example because timing and commitment and being able to comprehend the music, there's 1,000 other things going on and you're in unison. So I think about it in terms of just the team context. At the end of the day, like assessment, I talk about this all the time. Creative ways to assess candidates. I call them creative competencies. And it's a two-way street because I worked at a creative design company, creative design technology for 5 years where everything was creative. We were trying to find those types of people that were ultra creative, but they had to be able to execute from a technical perspective. But we had to somehow draw them into a very creative minded environment. So we're looking for left brain people in a right brained world. So we got really creative with how we asked questions. So instead of saying, tell me about the time you were curious, you say, what's something that you've learned recently? And you applied it to your life or your profession. Man, the information you get from that question, you might get a 5 or 10 minute answer about, oh, I'm working on this. So I just learned how to do some woodworking. Or one guy was a really good fracture burner and he burned he was making art through electricity. And I was like, man, like that actually aligns with the creative thought that we're trying to get here. We're not looking for people to come in and fit into this perfect box. Like creativity is not something that you can really box in. We index on questions like disagreement and encouraging it. And then of course that evolved to like, how are you using AI to enhance your creativity in your life? Because we're building AI technology. We don't want to shy away from it. And we want you to leverage that in your process too. Don't outsource your creativity to AI. I think everybody can take some of those aspects and apply it to any company, anywhere. What we're all really trying to do is build something. And I think a good recruiter, especially in that top of funnel first moment you capture that conversation, is represent what that person will be building. And that can be your ultimate hook. And then tertiary to that are all the comp, the benefits, the culture, like all these things. At the end of the day, we all want to have a body of work that we can come out of with our career and be like, man, I was at X company when we built this. The same way you referenced the design references. We all want to have a body of work. You referenced your mom as an educator. Both my parents were educators. And my dad always talked about leaving a legacy. Like, what's your legacy? Like being able to look back and be like, damn, I did some cool shit back then. But I did it with really good people in a really fun and human way that was ethically fits into my own moral values and all those kinds of things. So it can be done. It's exciting to put all those pieces together too.
Yeah, it's interesting, dude. I really enjoy hearing your perspective on things. I love the call out of the orchestra. I think orchestra's a really good example for building an elite team at work because there's so much individual preparation that aligns to performance. I think it's actually a more one-to-one example than sports and building a sports team.
I agree.
But you've been an early stage startup guy. So like Design Pickle, like that's how I understood your experience. You did a ton of technical hiring at Design Pickle. Talk a little bit about how you built that function and like maybe just some advice you have for tech recruiters out there.
Yeah. The joke was like when I first started Design Pickle, the first rec I took was VP of product. And there's going to be startup recruiters out there, founding recruiters that can empathize with this. But it was like the CEO like leaning over the balcony and, hey, Kim, I need to hire VP of product. I'm like, got anything else? You got a job description or take, what do you need? We just need a VP of product. I'm like, and literally there was a mezzanine in that office. So I'm like, all right, cool. We got it. We got the person. And it was immediately like, you and I are going to be attached to the hip and we're going to build out the best bleeping team we can possibly find. Here's what I've seen as a recruiter, like at the company, having recruited you in and started to build this out. You tell me what we need technically. So if you're a technical recruiter, like your stakeholder management, like you're actually, let me even like present my better term for that. Everybody talks about the candidate experience. We all should. We should have great candidate experience. I want to talk about the hiring team's experience. How can we as recruiters make it so easy for them that it becomes so hard to choose a candidate because we did it? So the immediate thing was like, hey, look, Kyle, we're in this together. I'm right here with you. He was like, I'm in. I love it. Let's figure out exactly what we need. Here's my ideal map of what we're looking for. You have carte blanche to say, hey, I think I might have a candidate who has a lot of high potential or a lot of skills in this area, might be lower in this area. Will you talk to him? I was spot checking every single day. And I was able to do that because I had the relationship with him. He'd like, maybe not quite right for this role, but let's tag him in our system and let's maybe circle back and then communicate that to the candidate. So one of the things that is also challenging when you're going out to market in early stage companies is like, you're representing a company that it's likely they've never heard of, the candidate has never heard of. So you have to build out an EVP, like a micro EVP almost.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you have to be able to represent that in 5 minutes. And that's when I go back to what are you building? So I'm in Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale. There's a lot of great companies here, but we're trying to pull people from these larger companies that have built and scaled to come into a nebulous creative environment that is both creative service and creative tech. What does the person on the end of the phone, what is important to them? The common theme is like what they're building. Most people, the candidates, know what a startup is. A lot of people know the risk. A lot of people hear about the upside. They hear about the Tesla employee from 2010 whose equity turned into $30 million. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Everybody's got an Uncle Tony who worked at Uber.
Something like that. Yeah, for sure. Now, you have to be realistic, though. If we can pull this off, this is going to be awesome from a life standpoint, from a growth standpoint, from a body of work standpoint. So that would be my encouragement to the technical recruiters out there. Really dial in to what these people are going to be building and how it's going to impact the trajectory of the company. Because when you get to that end stage, let's say you put the person through the great process, stakeholders internally are happy, candidates happy, you get to that end point, the kicker is not going to be the recruiter closing the candidate. The kicker is going to be, what has the last 4, 5, 6 touch points actually been that has gotten to the point where you're just delivering information and they have everything they need to make a decision if it's right for them or not. That is the beautiful thing, because you've done it in a way that's just like everybody's swimming in the same direction. Internal team is aligned. We all know what we're looking for. Candidates getting excited, encouraging the candidate to ask really tough questions. You get to that end game, you're like, hey, here's the offer I'm going to give you. You can talk to anybody else again if you want to. You tell me if this is right for you. Because we've shown all of our cards. Do your thing. And a lot of times that worked out. That's been my experience. That's usually worked out. And if it doesn't, it ends up being a really cool relationship that doesn't end there either.
What did you talk about before we started recording in the show notes about the things that you communicate? You said it so eloquently, Cailean, where you're talking about just how people can improve their EQ and communication by being upfront and honest. Like, the turn of the tongue you had on it was so dialed. I'm trying to recall how you said it exactly.
Calling it what it is, it's actually never been easier to be a good recruiter. Like, of course, there are some technical things that we all have to do. We have to know our search strings. We have to know where to look, all these things. Human interaction should be based on trust, little to no agenda. Obviously, if you're a recruiter, you have an agenda. If you're asking someone on a date, there's a little bit of an agenda. If you're trying to sell something, there's a little bit of an agenda, of course. But like, you can establish a genuine connection through curiosity, inquisition, caring, that's going to establish that immediate back and forth, like trust and communication. That even if this doesn't work out, let's communicate like adults. And this whole notion of, here's what I want, here's what I'm looking for. If it breaks down, we'll tell you. If something's misaligned, we'll tell you. If you can do the same, at the very least, the worst thing that's going to come out of this is we've got a good connection. When you're looking for a position next time and I'm still here, we'll talk. If I have a friend that's hiring over here, I'll connect you. that is an exponential return on a relationship. And I'll give a shout out to Russ Perry at Design Pickle. Always talked about ROR, turn on relationship. Oh. I love it because there's ROI. And if I buy this tool, what's the R? Sometimes you can't quantify that in recruiting. It's like, we're getting our name out there. But return on relationship is like having such a good experience from an internal recruiting standpoint, internal hiring team standpoint, from a candidate standpoint. Turn on the relationship is absolutely critical. I get people in my LinkedIn inbox that I interviewed in 2016. Hey, I remember you and the team, and I remember there was a dog in the office, and we had a great conversation. We talked about coming from Illinois and blah, blah, blah. People remember those moments of like delightfulness in human communication. And I just feel like it's almost like situationally agnostic, but it's human centric. I told you, man, that tonight I'm going on a solo date, going to a nice restaurant down the road. It's my Friday night thing that my therapist was like, you should solo date yourself and have something to look forward to. I will talk to the bartender, or I'll talk to the person next to me with no agenda. I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah.
You're the same way. A lot of us are the same way. I have no agenda. I literally want to know where they're from, and I want to see photos of their dog, and I will leave happy at the end of the night. And that may turn into a friendship. It may turn into a high five. It may turn into nothing. I will be equally as happy. But that's just like my MO when I'm out there. And it hasn't really served me poorly yet, but I'm gonna keep doing it. And that's how I've gotten to where I'm at in my career with my personal life, professional life, my family life. Like there's a return
It's work-life
on every
integration.
relationship.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Return on relationship. I dropped return on gratitude at a conference on stage recently, and I had never said it before, but it came out of my mouth, and I was like, yeah, I like that. Like return on gratitude, like it's endless. Show up for other people. Recruiting is humble work. I think a lot of people in recruiting can sometimes just be like these ego trippers where it's like, dude, you're a recruiter. Get over yourself. Like our job is just to understand human motivation. I think great recruiters also just understand culture. If you have an encyclopedic knowledge of pop culture references, you can earn people's trust in 5 minutes. If you can't connect with somebody in 5 minutes as a recruiter on a phone after you cold call them, like good luck, go do something else.
Man,
I don't know. That's the stuff that I love.
I have to tell you, man, we added two of the companies I worked at now, added one very simple question to our application, not even the first verbal conversation. One question changed so many openings of a conversation. We forget how anxiety inducing recruiting and interviewing can be. It's hard. Job seeking is hard. You're stressed. There's a financial implication. There's family. There's your car. You wanted to take this trip, like all these things. We started finding ways to reduce that anxiety through creative ways. And the question was, if your creativity had a soundtrack, what song would we playing? On one hand, we could tell when it was AI because they all put Eye of the Tiger and they wrote like this weird description of Eye of the Tiger. But you get somebody that talks about, man, I would love for Skrillex or Odessa, or maybe it's this like beautiful song you've never heard of. And you open up and you're like, oh my gosh, like my joke was like, I'm a 2000s alt rock guy. And my favorite band is this Southern California band called Thrice. And they used to be super hardcore. And now they've got this bright body of work. But if I can align with somebody on that, man, they'll open up so much more to you in a more organic kind of way. Or you can be like, hey, you put this really cool band in there that I'd never heard of. And they're like, oh yeah, I saw them when I was in high school with my older sister. You get these really beautiful stories. And all of a sudden, they don't even realize it. Their anxiety is down. Their heart rate might be lower. Their speech cadence might be much more easier for you as a recruiter to understand and take notes. And all of a sudden, you have this level of comfort that if you are able to work with that person all the way through the process to the point of an offer, to the point of onboarding where they're there, you are the first person that they know. And you're also the first person that they're going to go to when they have a question about their benefits, culture, time off. Who do I talk to about this? My computer's not working. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? I say, yeah, I got you. We established that this is how we're going to communicate. You know how I am. We aligned on this. We're like establishing that like professional friend kind of vibe. And throughout that process, you're right there with them.
You can be my workplace friend.
We want to win too, right? We want to get the right person in the right seat. And it's a beautiful thing. So asking that question, though, it seems so innocuous. In fact, like some people are like, why the hell would you ask that? That sounds so dumb. It's like, it's a creative environment. This is a creative process. For me, it's a creative process. And for them, it's anxiety inducing in some ways. Let's align. There's something you can align with every single human on the planet on. Maybe it's soccer. Maybe it's travel. Maybe it's your hair. Maybe it's a chain. Man, I feel like I should write a book about this.
You should.
One of my first mentors in coaching soccer, he said, it doesn't matter where our people come from. because we had athletes from Israel that served in the Israeli army. We had people from the Caribbean. We had people from Canada. We have people from Phoenix. We have people from Indiana. He said, you are going to find out that we have so much more in common than we do different, even though we are from massively different places. At the time, soccer was the connective tissue. Work is also a connective tissue of all that. And we're all trying to win. We're all trying to row in the same direction. We're all trying to play the same music. And I just get so excited about when that works. It's like a freaking clock.
I
it can also
agree.
go horribly wrong. It can go horribly wrong too, but most of the time it's been good.
Such a great question. I think a lot of folks, their initial reaction would be like, that's a throwaway question. It's riddled with bias. And it's, we got to think about candidate experience and like the human experience of being in the interview seat. And all humans, we're not like, I don't know, man, like I'm not in charge of my physiology. If I get nervous or excited and I overtalk, that's just who I am. If one candidate has a physiological response to anxiety compared to another, like I'm a recruiter, man. Like that's not on me to determine. Like that's where I see this fault in the bias police almost. I love that question. And I got a funny story. I had coffee with a recruiter friend today in Denver, and a coffee shop had accidentally their Spotify share thing on where you can like control the playlist. So they had this like vibey like morning music, and we were both like spicy and having fun, and she's funny too. So we put on Bring Me the Horizon, Count Your Blessings, our first studio album, and it's like super dark death metal. And the whole coffee shop was just like, what the hell? And then they would change it back to the vibey coffee shop, and then we would change it back to the death metal. And it was so funny because it's that universal language. And I love that you index on that to provide a better candidate experience.
Yeah.
Okay. What is a metric you stand by? If it comes to startup recruiting, what do you look at? What do you tell your CEO for how you're being effective?
Can I say two? And they're not off the shelf. One kind of is, and I know you talked about this before. One is quality of hire. And I don't mean quality of hire of like, how are they doing? Yes, no, that's one. And I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this know what quality of hire is. They know how to quantify it, and everybody has their ways of doing it. I do want to talk about another thing that might be less important to a CEO, some CEOs, respectfully, but is really important to people in our function. And that's how many candidates refer people to you when that candidate didn't get hired. So you don't hire someone and they still refer people to you. That is critical for me because that signals that we have done a really good job of communicating back to that transparency, that honesty, that we're talking to you about what life is really like here. A lot of times, or sometimes rather, like the candidate will opt out. This isn't the right environment for me, but my brother-in-law is ideal for this type of environment. So how many candidates that you rejected refer other candidates to you? I don't even know how you would make that an acronym, but I don't really subscribe to the standard metrics. I do because I have to, but I always say if a sales leader, if it takes 2 weeks longer to hire a senior account exec that's tracking at 160% of quota, that sales leader does not give a shit if it took 2 extra weeks to hire that person. I promise you that. So there's those, of course, but one's candidate experience based and one is our own effectiveness as a recruiting team. And that is also something that can increase and improve that internal stakeholder alignment too. How are they doing here? That's become a real critical piece. I do think, and not to get too long-winded on it, I do think when you're in a founding role, when you're in an early role, when you're in a head of role, talent is talent. Talent is not always just acquisition. Talent is talent, and talent is now broadening. We're broadening the aperture of the word talent in these types of environments to look at our own effectiveness. And that doesn't stop when they're verifying their I-9 on day one. That doesn't stop for us anymore. And it shouldn't. So
yeah, I appreciate that. There's like differences too when you're an early startup recruiter. You just got to deliver. You got to move fast. Like founders only care if the next person on their interview calendar is the person they want to hire. So sometimes you got to learn what hills to die on and how to pick your battles. The metric I keep coming back to is quality of slate. Like I hear more and more folks talk about quality of slate, and Melissa Thompson at Ford Motors coined this. She's like head of global TA. And it's basically a metric around top of funnel efficacy. And that's actually where I'm really excited to see more precision. And that's how I think recruiters can up level is like, instead of having 20 screens to get 10 to the hiring manager, have 10 screens to get 5. And I think with AI, we'll get even closer. So I'm excited about recruiters being able to become more strategic and explaining the why to hiring managers, who's on their slate and why they're interviewing 5 folks, despite an employer's market where let's see who else is out there runs rampant.
Talent, that's where talent acquisition partner comes in of I'm hired for a reason. I'm confident based on what I know about our relationship of however long we've worked together, that this person has characteristics functionally or behaviorally that I think that you'll like. Let's talk about it. And I'm going to say something I think every recruiter has probably dealt with or felt in their life. A hiring manager is going to say, why should I talk to this person? And you'll say, just talk to them.
Because I said so.
I can't explain it, but I know it when I see it. And I'll buy you coffee if it fails miserably. But like that's a hill that a lot of us will die on. Just talk to this candidate. I just feel it. I know. Now I know we can't hang our hat on the feels. There's got to be data behind it, but there are times when you just have that intuition that can't be outsourced to AI. It's in
send you my deck.
my head. Yeah.
I gotta send you my deck from the talk I gave at Michigan Recruiters about vibe hiring. And I did an exercise in mental gymnastics that explains how hiring for vibes in using psychometrics and using assessments and rubrics are all the same thing. Because there are times, there are roles where you do know it when you see it. And there will be people that may hear this and be like, nope, that like privileged white dude is wrong. And that's fine. I have a lot of male white privilege, but I agree. If you are talking to a 24-year-old SDR candidate and they knock the hiring manager's socks off and the hiring manager feedback is like, wow, that person was really impressive. Do we really need to go through the exercise of wasted OpEx to define what are those attributes? What are those competencies of that person has it? Like ultimately, it's that EQ. We can define it. We should define it at scale. But ultimately, I'm with you. That's like a hill I'll die on. There is an X factor and it factor for certain roles. And it's not necessarily just a reflection of yourself. And that's where I will challenge anybody in that conversation.
Yeah. And a lot of that can come from somebody that's a diverse background, like diverse background, diverse work history, a diverse life history, diverse in the traditional sense of how we define diversity. Like recruiters are so ingrained in every single team and what every single team needs. There's times when we might see somebody that has a really unique background or whatever. We know from in some ways, like a neutral third party. We're not neutral, but we are a third party to a business unit sometimes. And we have a different set of eyes. And that's where the talent partner comes in. That's where I differentiate a churn and burn recruiter from a talent partner. And my joke at one of the companies I worked for was they described the type of BDR that they wanted. And I said, you don't need somebody with SaaS experience. I said, I'm in Phoenix. I'm 5 hours away from Camp Pendleton. You need somebody that's just exiting the Marine Corps. Like you just find all these behavioral competencies that we'd find in that type of candidate, or maybe somebody that's first generation college student that has worked their ass off to get to that point. Like they have things that you cannot train. Maybe you don't need 2 years of BDR, SaaS experience or whatever. Let's break the script. Let's inject something that doesn't objectively make sense to that leader. And then dude, I love recruiting. I love pizza. I love coffee. I freaking love and I told you so. I love and I told you. So when that happens, which a lot of times that works out, that to me is like almost as big as like getting that that offer letter signed from a badass candidate. That excites me. When we can be the person that puts that right piece into the clock, that's why I swing my feet out of bed.
Dude, I love that. I told Benji, the CEO of Ashby, this years ago. I remember in a conversation. It's probably like 4 years ago. I said, yeah, everybody likes being right, but I love when I'm the person that's wrong. Like I love when I'm on the receiving end of an I told you. That is just maybe I'm a weirdo, but I love that, dude. I love that. And when it comes to working with hiring managers, challenging what they think they want, that is being a great recruiter. I don't know, man. Like I've hired a ton of SDRs, BDRs. I'm sure you have as well. The ones that are most impressive, the ones that I'm going to recruit again, like they're always the ones that come from unimpressive backgrounds, whatever impressive means. Like they didn't go to a dope school. They didn't come from some elite sales training program or sales organization. If you're a BDR, can you hammer the phones and connect with people? And do you have something to prove? I love the underdog. That's why I'm a burn myth guy. It's like, can you prove something to yourself first and the business second? If yes, I can't wait to give you money.
Yeah, no doubt.
Who's your Prem team, by the way?
Oh man, I'm a Manchester United fan. It's been tough. I know it's been tough, but it's also an exercise in patience because when I was a kid, man, we were the best. Like 90s soccer, we were the best in the world. Beautiful style, everything. We haven't won a whole lot. I know.
Actually, you've done employer brand work. We talk about brand and design and creative. Manchester United has one of the largest fan bases of any brand globally. It's bonkers. They claim like 1.1 billion fans, which whatever, they pad their stats. but there are like larger fan bases of Man U fans that are larger than people's countries, that are larger than countries.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like people always ask, like, small to know like it, like, how'd you become a United fan? Like, it's a similar thing to like people of our parents and grandparents' vintage that are like, the only team that was playing at the time was the Yankees, like on the radio
Yeah.
in the 50s, 60s. In the 90s, it was Man U. Like, and I remember paying my mom $7 a month. I was mowing lawns in Jacksonville, Illinois, to give my mom $7 a month to get Fox Sports World. Shout out to anybody who remembers Fox Sports World. It was Man United games, rugby, and Aussie rules football late at night. But that was the only team I could watch. And so that's where I learned a lot. And then we studied the coaching of Sir Alex Ferguson and what it takes to be that good for that long. And you can flip that to an orchestra leader. You can flip that to Jackson. You can flip that to a CEO that's done really well and stayed at that level. It was a good team to hang your hat on at the time. And not going to change now. I mean,
I love that you just mentioned Phil Jackson. So Phil Jackson coached the Albany Patroons, like a sub NBA basketball team way back in the day. I think like the late 70s, early 80s, maybe it was. And my pops was the banker for the stadium and the team. Like Phil Jackson was doing like Phil Jackson mindfulness, visualization, like hippie stuff. It caught on. I think like you have these enigmatic people that make such an impact in the world around them. Like we think Phil Jackson, the Bulls, but it's like there's an entire community of people that were like rolling up to these games to hang out with Phil Jackson. And like, I'm on a mission to talk to the most passionate people in the world. And we talked about sports. I can hold the best of them talking about orchestra or painting. Like I want to hear anybody's passion the way we just talked about it with sports in any other subcontext. And I think like when you look at that in aggregate from a 30,000 foot view, that's a diverse perspective. That's how we define it. But I think people like laser focus and they want to throw fingers and just be like, oh, that dude's wrong. Whatever. Let's just talk about it.
let's talk about what we like. Let's all find ways we can talk about what we love and how we can help each other. That's what I actually love about like the community. And there's a lot of people out there that are really trying to elevate this function in companies. And recruiting can be a very thankless job.
Oh, 100%. I kind of like it.
Like, yeah. I mean,
like I don't need a pat on the back.
But you go to these events and there's all of a sudden you go to these events and there's like hugs and there's, man, I heard about this and I know you're going through this and your company, congrats on the acquisition. The recruiters know individually how we are actively contributing to that. And it's so cool. It's such a uplifting thing to be around that. And I would consider you to be one of the real drivers of that community as well. And there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of good things, but it's hard to do a podcast and work and be in a startup and have family and do all these things. And you and some key people in our community are doing it. And that's awesome. And I get to reap the benefit of a lot of the work that you do just through osmosis and listening to you guys in the car and learning from people that I look like on paper, I'm really far away from. Like the head of global TA at Ford, man, feels like there's echelons between us. There's not, there's you. Like that's
yeah,
actually
Melissa
really cool
Thompson, hit up Cailean.
Yeah.
No, man, it's so true. I really appreciate that. Somebody hit me up on LinkedIn today with a post and they were like, yo, this person is constantly putting stuff up. And it was a complete surprise where they just kind of like publicly prospected me or just gave me a shout out, whatever it was. And the reality is like all this LinkedIn stuff, all this content, it's for this. It's to have a conversation. Like you are a friend. We met because of the recruiting industry and a shared passion. That's dope. I don't have a lot of friends that do what I do for work. It's not easy to make friends with other men in your 30s. I appreciate that. All right, can we take a selfie first before the end of the thing? I want to do, hey, we're going to selfie with Cailean, and then we'll do a selfie. Awesome. And then tell us a little bit about what is on my screen in that selfie, overflowtalent.com.
Yeah, this is a project I've been working on for a while. Overflow Talent is basically a way for the recruiting community to endorse candidates into a marketplace when we didn't hire them. Like we've all been through really solid interview loops with awesome candidates that we've hired a referral, we've hired somebody else, but we all have really good ability to assess talent and make relationships. So what Overflow Talent is, it's a way for me as a recruiter to tell a candidate, hey, I'm sorry we didn't hire you, but I can endorse you into this marketplace that allows other recruiters to search for you and you have my endorsement. I'm going to write how awesome you are and you're going to be able to opt in to this marketplace and be found for other positions by other recruiters. So it's a recruiter endorsed marketplace is what it is. And I took the idea from the startup community here in Scottsdale, Phoenix. We were all sharing candidates and we said, hey, this camp didn't work out for us, but that doesn't mean they're not awesome. So I just took that and had some time in my hands over the last year, and I decided to build a marketplace for it. And hopefully it continues to drive the community and the connection that we all have. And whether it turns into something big or not, I feel like it's the right thing to do. And I have the knowledge and the passion. So overflowtalent.com.
Heck yeah, dude. This podcast could have been a wellness retreat. It's great to have you on the show. Good to hear about the stuff that's going on in your life. Also dope to see your place too, man. It's always nice to be, okay, that's where homie's working and what their life looks like.
Perfect time of year in Arizona. This is why we live here right now.
I'm coming down. Can we do like a boys' day at the pool at the Scott?
Yeah, best day ever.
Let's do it. How can people stay in touch with what you're up to?
I am the only Cailean Bailey spelled my way on LinkedIn. So if you can spell it, you can find me. I live and breathe on LinkedIn. I'm still a believer. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm trying to stay super active on there and help my friends and colleagues out as much as I can. So hit me up on LinkedIn. If you can spell it, you can find me.
Love it, dude. Thanks for coming on the show. I'll send you the selfie. I'll shoot you a text.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, man. I really appreciate you.